Hey guys, this video is probably going to go on our food and eating in Japan playlist because it's sort of related. We made a video earlier this week showing a restaurant that had an all-you-can-drink alcohol bar for $15 or $13 if you bought some food. So there was all sorts of comments on that video, and some people were sort of making comments about, geez, you know, in my country, if you did that, there'd be all sorts of problems. So it's sort of interesting. We have talked about alcohol in Japan before and about how easy it is to get. So first of all, just talking about where you can get it from. So there's a convenience store over there. We can go over to the convenience store and buy alcohol, and lots of different types of alcohol too. They'll have beer and they'll have spirits, and they'll have, we've showed you this before on a video of alcohol and convenies, scotch and bourbon, and quite often much cheaper than it would be in other countries because the tax on alcohol here is really low. So alcohol's really cheap. It's about half the price of what it is in Australia, just as that comparison. So it's really cheap. And you can get anywhere. You can get at convenience stores, drug stores, vending machines. We've showed you vending machines before that sell alcohol. Pretty much any shop is going to sell alcohol. Those little corner stores we've been showing you recently, the little old ones owned by the old lady and the old man running their little corner store, they'll sell alcohol. Pretty much anywhere you can get alcohol. And then restaurants, pretty much any restaurant. The licensing laws as far as alcohol is concerned in Japan is sort of really easy or non-existent. So pretty much anybody can sell alcohol. And then, so that's pretty much all the shops, all the restaurants, pretty much anywhere you go you can get alcohol. And then there's other places too, like for example festivals. If we go to festivals, you know, there'll be at least one place where they'll be selling alcohol. They might have a big tub of ice, you know, full of beer, and they'll have sake, and they'll have all sorts of stuff. Shrines, you can go to Shinto shrines during festivals and New Year and things like that. And they often have really good quality sake. Often they'll have big wooden barrels of sake. We actually know there's a newer shrine that we've been to before that the sake is usually okay, but it's a really old shrine that we go to, and they have excellent sake. And usually in winter they warm it up for you too, and they give it to you. It's free, you know, and they sort of encourage you to drink as much of it as possible. You know, they give it to you in these little square wooden cups, and they'll, you know, here's some warm sake, and you drink it. Come and have another one. And you try and put the cup back down and go, oh, that's enough for me, thanks very much. No, here, have another one. And they really encourage you to drink more. And they'll often have beer there too. I used to go to a Kyudo. I was part of a Kyudo group that did Japanese archery. And there's sort of a connection to the Zen thing and the Kyudo being a traditional thing, and there's actually some shrines that have connections with Kyudo, and we showed you all that. Little Kyudo figures or little archery figures on the tops of the shrines and things like that. And we'd go there for special events, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, the people at the shrine would be giving us sake and beer at 8 o'clock in the morning before we did our archery, right? So it's really interesting that the attitude towards alcohol here is like, you know, you pretty much get it anywhere. You can get it. Gas stations, there's an interesting thing. Drive in your car into the gas station and go in and buy alcohol. You know, it's pretty much everywhere, right? So that's the first thing. But then you don't sort of see the problems associated with public drinking. So the first one is you can buy alcohol pretty much anywhere. Second thing is you can drink it pretty much anywhere. The public drunkenness laws in Japan are either really soft or non-existent, depending on where you are, and drinking in public is considered to be, I mean, obviously because of the festivals and all the other things, and you know, people go to the park for their cherry blossom viewing in spring, and taking beer with you when you go and have a barbecue in the park is perfectly normal. Or the beach, go to the beach in summer and sit around on the beach drinking, or go to the mountains and sit next to the river. So pretty much the bottom line is you can buy alcohol pretty much anywhere, really cheaply, and you can pretty much drink it pretty much anywhere as well. It's sort of considered to be a bit uncivilized to walk around drinking alcohol or eating. We've talked about that before. It's sort of considered to be a pretty uncivilized thing to do. It's not a legal thing. It's more of just a cultural thing that walking and eating is considered to be pretty gay here, pretty sort of low class thing to do. So walking around drinking alcohol is considered to be a bit tacky. But if you sit down pretty much anywhere, you know, outside the train station or in the park or pretty much anywhere, and sit and quietly drink a beer or a sake or whatever, what are they called? Chuhai. They have cocktails in a can that you can buy. So it's just amazing. If you like drinking, you know, it's amazing. This place is amazing because you can get pretty much any alcohol cheaply and then drink it pretty much anywhere. But interestingly, you don't usually see problems as a result of that. You know, usually the people here, when they do drink, are usually just high-spirited. So, you know, they get a little bit more relaxed and happy and singing and so on. Places like that family restaurant that we showed you, usually you don't see. I mean, we were watching the other night, the night we made that video, there was one guy kept going back to the beer machine, you know, and getting more beer. But you don't sort of see people staggering around family restaurants drunk. You don't sort of see that, you know. Where you do sort of see drunk people more is places like bars or izakaya, the old style restaurants. You sometimes get big groups of people or small groups of people sitting around in groups, drinking and singing and being noisy and carrying on. You know, often those places. It's sort of like, as we've talked about before, in Japan, that people consider there's a right and wrong place for everything. You know, and being loud and noisy and singing and carrying on in an izakaya and doing karaoke really noisily and stuff is a normal thing to do because that's sort of acceptable in an izakaya. Whereas in a family restaurant it wouldn't be. You know, that's a yakiniku restaurant there on our left. So it's like a barbecue, Korean style barbecue thing. And the alcohol flows in there, you know, they've got big glasses of beer and you know, lots of alcohol in there, but you won't see people staggering around drunk in there. No doubt there'll be people who are drunk, but they're just really quiet about it, you know. So you sort of don't get the dramas, you know. You don't get the aggro thing. What you tend to get is a little bit like the thumbnail on this video. Is you'll get guys quietly going unconscious, right? So the train is a classic example. If you come back on the train from the city late at night, you know, seeing you know, salaryman business guys who've had a big day at work and then they've had a big night at the izakaya singing with their co-workers and they've fallen asleep on the train, you know. And, you know, I've had guys sitting next to me on the train, drunk guys, really quietly, just sitting there quietly and slowly slump over and put their head on your shoulder. You know, it's quite common here. You see that quite a bit. And that's what they do. They sort of quietly go to sleep, you know, and then miss their station and then wake up later and realise they've missed their station and all that sort of stuff. So it's really usually not anything that's going to cause anybody else any hassle. You know, there's not the violence. You know, in some countries it's just a statistic, isn't it? If you get a certain number of people together drinking heavily, that there's a certain percentage of them will get aggressive and that there'll be some sort of violence or some sort of confrontation. Whereas here, I can't remember seeing violence or confrontation as a result of alcohol. You know, at festivals is a good example. You know, a big festival and, you know, there's the taiko drums and it's all happening and people are drinking all day and they'll start at 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, and drink all day and hey, you know, and then singing the you know, whoosh, whoosh and pulling the dashi around, and it's a big emotional spirit, or, you know, high-spirited thing, and they'll be drunk, and you get young guys there, you know, some young dudes with their orange hair, and they're wearing their happy, you know, the festival thing, and they'll be drinking beer all day in the sun, and, you know, they just don't get. All you seem to get is occasionally you get a dude that's had too much and goes all floppy and sits over in the corner, and everyone has a laugh about it, and they sort of pick him up and take him over and sit him down under a tree or something, and he goes to sleep. You know, that's about all you'll get. You know, you just don't get the aggression or the people doing anything to upset anybody else. No aggression and no violence and You know, you just don't seem to get the problems resulted. Obviously, that's why the you can buy alcohol anywhere and drink it anywhere, is because they're not having problems with it. You know, probably if they did have problems with aggression and violence and things as a result of alcohol, they probably would tighten it up. They probably would make it harder to buy, and they probably would make it more rules about drinking in public and public drunkenness and that sort of thing. But probably because they don't have any problems with that, they just let it go. They just let it go, and you know, people can pretty much do whatever they want. The other one is drunk driving. We have actually talked about that years ago. We made a video about that. The penalties for drunk driving in Japan, it's it depends on the prefecture you're in, but usually it's about for drunk driving, there's a 0 alcohol limit, right? 0. So, you know, if you're going to be driving, you just can't drink anything. There's a 0 alcohol limit. They do have random breath tests. We've showed you videos of that before. A very painless thing. You know, they pull over and, hello, have you anything to drink tonight? And they have put their head in the window a bit to see if they can smell alcohol. And sometimes they'll get you to blow into the thing, you know. And random breath test. And then, yeah, it's a 0 alcohol limit. And if you are caught with alcohol in your blood while you're driving a car, the penalty varies, but it's usually around $10,000, right? $10,000. And it's up to 3 years, I think, they can take your driver's license for. So lose your driver's license for 3 years and get a $10,000 fine. If you work for a company, it could cost you your job, because they treat drunk driving really seriously here, obviously, as you can tell by the penalty. But also, you know, the companies will actually fire employees. Sort of, they see it similarly to committing a crime. So, oh, well, this guy's not a good guy, or she's not a good girl because she's committed this offence, so we can't have her working for our company anymore. Not always, but it is often the case. They get caught drunk driving, they lose their job. So, yeah, three years without a license, $10,000 fine, and I think they can put you in jail for a year as well. Not sure if it's the same with all of Japan, but I have heard that one as well. So really, you just can't take the risk. You just can't, because it's 0, you just can't take the risk, and you just can't drink at all if you're going to be going in the car, you know, so you got to be really careful with that one. But again, we don't, occasionally you'll hear a story of some old drunken dude running someone over or something. It does happen, but it's not a huge problem like it is in some countries, you know. It tends to be an unusual event if it happens. If a drunk driver runs into somebody and hurts somebody, it does tend to be a bit of an unusual event here. So that's pretty much the case. Obviously, it's a little bit more dodgy in the cities, just the numbers, you know, like Tokyo, you know, 20 million people live in Tokyo, so obviously you've got a higher chance of problems there because you've just got more people. So statistically, you know, there's an increased chance of some sort of drama as a result of alcohol there. But, you know, we've got Nagoya near here. That's the third biggest city in Japan with 15 million people or something. And you know, you can go into Nagoya and cruise around in Nagoya at late at night, and you know, you just don't get it. You don't get it. It sort of must be something about Japanese nature as well, you know, that they're just not usually aggressive or violent people. So then when they get drunk, the aggression and the violence just doesn't occur, you know. So you just don't get it. You don't get it like in some countries. If you go out late at night in a big city and lots of drunk people around, you're going to run into some aggressive, violent person, possibly. Whereas here, you just don't sort of get it. They tend to be more high-spirited and singing songs and, you know, carrying on. So yeah, that's pretty much that in response to those people, because there's people asking all sorts of questions about the $15 all-you-can-drink alcohol. They call that nomi hodai, and you can get that pretty much. Most bars and restaurants have some version of that, where you pay a certain amount of money and you can drink as much as you want. Sometimes it's unlimited. The time is unlimited. You can just do it all night if you want to. Other places they'll have a time limit. You know, it's you know, $15 for 2 hours or whatever, and you can drink as much as you want in 2 hours. But yeah, you just don't sort of get the negative results from the alcohol that you do in some countries, you know. So hopefully that's answered all those questions. So it is pretty good if you like your alcohol. If you do like your alcohol, it's a good place to be. Cheap alcohol that you can drink anywhere. It is a pretty good place to be. But yeah, if you do come to Japan and you do drink alcohol, just remember that that's usually the case. That you know, you don't want to be getting aggressive or anything like that if you've been drinking in Japan, because it wouldn't be a common thing and people wouldn't think it was very cool. So anyway, that was that. Public drunkenness and drinking in public in Japan. And if you see some old salary man sleeping on the train, it won't be an unusual thing. Anyway, there it was. More videos coming soon.